it's over, as we have a shocking new report that has just dropped surrounding Brandon Carlo. That was not only unexpected, but changes the outlook of the Leafs plans going forward, specifically as it pertains to the trade deadline. And things have just taken the worst possible turn. I'm going to break that down as well. It's got some more updates, including an update surrounding Stolarz, which is also negative and bad news, and a ton of other things to go over ahead of the game tonight, including a lineup change and a roster move. A ton to go over today. But before we get into it all, folks, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. Your guys' support has been unbelievable, even though the Leafs have had a disastrous season thus far. Darius, let's not waste any more time here. News just dropped. Now, yesterday, Craig Berube came out and basically said that, Brandon Carlo suffered a setback. He hasn't been doing great. It didn't seem like a severe injury at first, which is kind of the storyline of this whole season for injuries. And then he comes out a little bit ago, and kind of breaking news here, he will be out an extended period of time. Looks like a surgery for the defenseman. So, Darius, Brandon Carlo is going to be out of the lineup for a very long time. And Berube says he has to get something done. It didn't go the way we thought. I'm assuming it being his recovery. So now he's going to be getting surgery. He's going to be done for a very long time. And not only does this remove one of their, in theory, best defensemen, although he's been bad this year, they are now going to be without Tanev for a while, but Brandon Carlo for a while. The trade deadline, where Carlo was named as one of the most likely pieces to get moved as recently as last week, even a few days ago, I believe, is now done. He's going to be done, and maybe that shifts the eyes as to Max Domi, but Brandon Carlo's done for not the year, but a very long time.
Yeah, they haven't said the year. They didn't say that. But this has major implications on the team, obviously on the ice, first of all, in the immediate and off the ice long term. This is big. And yesterday we heard that, he wasn't practicing, in Florida. Obviously, the team flew to Florida yesterday. They're playing the Panthers tonight. So we heard that he didn't fly there and he was on the ice last week in Columbus. And, the thought was he was going to practice with the team, get a, good practice in, morning skate today, and he might actually get into the lineup for today's game. But he suffered a setback. He flew back to Toronto and that he was seeing a specialist. And now they said yesterday we'd have more news in the next 24 hours. And here it is. He's getting surgery and he's going to be out long term. Now, again, it doesn't sound like the whole season, but think about it. He's got to get surgery now. He's got to recover from the surgery and then he has to rehab to get back on the ice and get back in the lineup. This could be a long time. You're not trading an injured Brandon Carlo who hasn't been good so far this year, not getting anything for him. So what you said is true too, and what we've heard. Like there's teams that want Brandon Carlo. He could be on the move this year. The Leafs could keep him, but he could also be on the move depending on how the season goes. But this has a significant impact on the team. They have hardly any right shot defenseman left. Carlo's out. We have no update on Chris Tanev and Stolarz we'll get to in a second. This is bad news for the Leafs. Maybe they have to go out and make a trade for a defenseman now, which we, thought it was going to be a forward the entire season and maybe moving some forwards out as well. So it might have to be a defenseman at this point because this is not good news.
Yeah, and the Leafs aren't going to tank. They can't really tank at this point. Luckily, they got blessed now in hindsight with Troy Stecher. He's been an absolute, I guess you want to call it a delight.
It's been great.
Insane. And of course now, let's see here, interesting tweet from Justin Bourne. Curious if the Carlo injury happened on a single play or was something that was bothering him in the first few weeks of the season because of how bad he was being, which if so, would probably make some people feel better about how it went for Carlo out there for a while. So, that's a very good point. If he's been hurt the whole year, we've seen this team clearly, like players don't play well when they're hurt, whether it was Austin Matthews last year, debatably Austin Matthews this year, Brandon Carlo, all these guys. Very interesting there. Also, it seems that Chris Tanev, no huge update, but it seems he's skating, back in Toronto. So maybe we'll get an update on him today and tomorrow about when a timeline is for his return. He's currently on, of course, the IR. But it is a worst case scenario. And worst case scenario specifically regarding the trade deadline. Now, was trading Carlo the best move at this upcoming deadline? Like maybe, depending on what they could get back. Of course, that Fraser Minton trade's looking worse and worse by the day, but that's not something that they could have predicted necessarily. I think a lot of us liked the move at the time. But also, Anthony Stolarz, which we can dive into now as well, there's no real improvement there, so he's going to be out for a while. The good news is Hildeby looked really good, and Joseph Woll has looked really good this year. So I guess you can take the positives out of this, but it doesn't seem like there's any, big update for Stolarz either, to where now you're stuck with, without Tanev, without Carlo, without, Stolarz, you're three players that were supposed to be one of the most crucial parts of course, your blue line and your goaltending tandem here this start of the season. But yeah, they might have to make it shift to some trades because Philip Myers, Dakota Mermis, even Benoit, I don't know if that's a recipe for winning at this point.
Yeah, and I think with the trade, to go back to that point you made, hindsight's 2020. At the time, I liked the trade. Like I like Fraser Minton. I think a first round pick, you want to hang on to that stuff. But a lot of people are pessimistic and don't want to upgrade the team. They had an opportunity and they saw a chance last year to go out and win a Stanley Cup. So you have to make a move like that to get a solid right shot defenseman that you can move off of because he has term. I thought it was a good move at the time, right? And it's all about perspective too. Like Michelli, I said on the stream I was doing yesterday, Michelli has more points than Fraser Minton. I know Fraser Minton has a higher ceiling and all those things, but keep that in perspective as well. And he hasn't really even been playing. But to go back to Brandon Carlo, and not just him, but Chris Tanev, like you were mentioning too, Chris Tanev and Anthony Stolarz now, no update on him. That's the backbone of your team. Last year, if you think about it, like Wall did have good performances last year, but that was the backbone of your team, Chris Tanev and Stolarz, and they're both out. So that has a significant impact on how you're going to perform this year. Now they're last in the Eastern Conference, not just the division. They're last in the Eastern Conference right now. There's some worse teams out west, of course, so they're not last in the league, but they're running out of time to pick up some points, and this week is absolutely crucial. You're playing the team that's right in front of you in the Florida Panthers, right? And they've been struggling. They're dealing with injuries. You're playing the Montreal Canadiens this week. That's a great opportunity for revenge back on home ice, right? It's a tough week in terms of the schedule. So it doesn't get any easier. They have to start picking up some points, but you're without a lot of your top players. This is not getting any better for the Leafs on the injury front. They might have to start relying, and this could open the door as well, which could be interesting, to William Villeneuve as well, right? He's been having a great campaign with the Marlies. So we'll see ultimately what happens with some of the moves. I would imagine, he's going on LTIR. They're going to get some cap relief. The LTIR rules are a little bit different this year. If you are coming back in the regular season, you don't save as much. So we'll see how that all plays out and what they can do with that cap flexibility. But, all that to say, these updates, they're not good.
Yeah, and obviously you have Henry Thrun, William Villeneuve. Maybe they won't make. I mean, the trade deadline now becomes that much more interesting. And for tonight's game, Benoit is in for Dakota Mermis, who had a rough game last time. And Benoit has also had a pretty rough season. Of course, he signed that 3-year deal at the beginning. I believe it was last year or the year before. I think it was last year. So, I mean, at the end of the day here, you look at the blue line. Riley, OEL, they've both been pretty good. OEL has been the best defenseman this year. McCabe's had an iffy year. Troy Stetcher's looked great. Benoit Myers, that is a nightmare fuel, a nightmare inducing.
It's going to be tough.
Third pairing there. And then, of course, you have Wall, you have Hildeby. I mean, the good news is, like, looking at the blue line and things like that, a lot of the guys have control. This isn't the be-all, end-all. If you want to look beyond this year, Carlo has another year after this. Of course, Tanev had multiple years. Joseph Wall has years. So they can figure it out. But the problem now is the deadline. There's so many questions. There's almost more holes to fill than there is, plugs available to fill the holes. So at this point, it's going to be a very wild trade deadline. Whether they try to acquire a top 6, bottom 6, or an actual blue liner, that's going to be interesting. But Cowan remains in the top 6 right now. He's looked very, very good this year. If there's one silver lining for me, it's two, I guess. OEL and Easton Cowan. They've both looked fantastic. I mean, Matthew Nyes, William Nylander, those guys as well. But hopefully Cowan can take care of business here, because the schedule gets no easier. Of course, the Panthers today, you go up against the Carolina Hurricanes on Thursday, and then on Saturday you're going up against a very solid Montreal Canadiens team. But teams are now looking at the Leafs, probably thinking, hey, they are, they're the easiest team to beat right now in the division.
Yeah, I mean, because they are, right? If you really think about it, the conference, they're last in the conference, right? But like I mentioned, Florida coming up here today. Then you're playing Carolina, who leads the Metropolitan Division on Thursday. Montreal is going to be a tough matchup. We saw what happened, 2 weeks ago. Tampa's Tampa's actually the only Atlantic Division team with a positive goal differential, and they're ripping up the league right now. They look fantastic at the top of the Atlantic. The Sharks are in a playoff spot, and then the Oilers are kind of in the same spot as the Leafs. So it doesn't get much easier the next little while. You're going to have to pick up some wins here. There's no way you can go through the stretch losing a majority of these games. You're going to have to find a way to win. So it doesn't get easier. Guys are dropping like flies. It has not been a good season. They have to figure it out because, we're going to have another video on it tomorrow. It doesn't sound like any changes are too imminent to at least management and coaching. Of course, it can happen, but I don't think it's really around the corner at this point. So this is a crucial week and crucial next 2 weeks for the Leafs, but again, some bad news on the injury front.
Yeah, let us know down below your thoughts on this. You guys have been absolutely fantastic with the support. We'll see you guys later.